I'm sorry. Did I step on your moment? Hey everyone, and welcome to July's TBR Assemble. And if you don't know what TBR Assemble is, I'll leave a link up above to my explanation video. But essentially, Thanos is coming and I need to collect the Avengers and the Infinity Stones to stop him. And with that, let's get into the roll.
I have been falling for 30 minutes. And I'm just here to quickly say as well that before I start, I'm doing 2 readathons. That is Warp Tour readathon and also the Path or Pantheon readathon. And I'm going to be going down the route of the Norse gods. So that's all I want to say. Now into the rolls.
Today's avatar is a Black Widow because Black Widow is coming out this month. Roll number 1 is a 1. So I'm gonna pick this one, and that is Bruce, an underrated character, for 2 points. My first roll was Bruce, an underrated character, so I'm going to be reading Armageddon Out of Here, which is a short story collection in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. So this actually collects all of the short stories that were written up until obviously this was published, that take place in between each of the books. Now I'm not going to be reading this entire book. I'm only going to be reading about 300 pages of it because that's just where the short stories end as to where I am in the series, and then I will be continuing it as we read the rest of the books, essentially. But I cannot wait. I have never read this one before, and I'm so excited because, like I said, I've never read this before, and I just cannot wait to read all of these short stories and see more of Skullduggery and Valkyrie in between their world-saving adventures. And this is also covering 2 prompts for the Warp Tour readathon. The first one is Dear Maria, Count Me In, which is to either reread a book from your emo phase or a book you would have loved in your emo phase. And I never read this when I was in my emo phase because I was an idiot and quite frankly it wasn't published yet, so I couldn't read it. But I did love this series in my emo phase. To be honest, my emo phase started when I was about 12, so I was primed to love this essentially. But either way, because I didn't read it when I was in my emo phase originally, this is counting for read a book you would have loved during your emo phase. And this is also counting for the simple plan prompt, which is to read a book from the longest series on your shelf. And quite frankly, this series is 14 books long if you just count the main stories and not the short story collection and the spin-offs. So it's definitely one of the longest on my shelf and I cannot wait to read it. Roll number 2 is a 3, so I Love You 3000 for 2 points. The second prompt was I Love You 3000, which is to reread one of your favourite books, Deathbringer. Obviously, I need to read it for the Dead Famous Read Along anyway, and I cannot wait to read this one. This is the 6th book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series, which is also where Armageddon Out of Here comes from. And this is obviously book 6, so I can't tell you the specific storyline in this one. But what I will say is that this is an urban fantasy set in Ireland, focusing on Valkyrie, Kane and Skullduggery Pleasant as they team up together to try and stop various magical threats from trying to kill the world, essentially. And I cannot wait for this one. This one has so many things happen in it. There's so many awesome things I can't wait to reread and just experience with everyone in this book as part of the read along. And I'm loving rereading this series again, just as I do every single time I read it, and I cannot wait to reread this one again because this is actually where I got to last year actually, and then stopped for the Dead Famous Read Along to restart again. So I'm really excited to read this one because this is the last one that I've reread, and then I can go on to Kingdom of the Wicked, which is one I've only read once, so cannot wait. And this is also covering a couple of prompts for Path or Pantheon and also the Warp Tour readathon. So for Path or Pantheon, this is covering Odin, which is a morally grey character, because quite frankly I do think Skullduggery is very, very morally grey. And it's also counting for Meet and Greet, which is a favourite author or an author you'd love to meet, and quite frankly I have already met Derek Landy at Yauk 2 years ago, but I'd love to re-meet him again and get more of my books signed, and also he is one of my favourite authors, so it counts both ways. Roll number 3 is a 1, so that is I Used to Have Nothing for 3 points. My next prompt was I used to have nothing, which is a TBR veteran, and so I'm going to be reading City of Heavenly Fire because I have started this, but spoiler alert, I have not finished it. I've literally got this much left, so I'm going to be carrying it over and reading it in this month as well. And I'm counting this as a TBR vet because quite frankly I have owned a version of this book for about 10 years now, and I've only just started reading it when I got a slightly smaller, easier to hold size, and I am really enjoying it so far. This is obviously as well the sixth book in the Mortal Instruments series, so I can't really tell you much about it, but it is the final book and I'm really excited to read it. I am enjoying it so far. I just ran out of time to read it this month, so I'm going to continue it into July. And this is also counting for the prompt of Frigg, which is Features Family, as well as Sugar We're Going Down, which is a modern classic, because I do count these as a modern classic because they are basically on every YA book you need to read list, and it's also counting for Forever Warped, which is a series finale.
Roll number 4 is a 6, so and that is Before You Didn't Have Me for 1 point.
My next prompt was Before You Didn't Have Me, which is to read a new book. Now, I'm going to be reading a book in a new format, despite the fact that I don't own it, because I'm going to be borrowing the audiobook of A Song of Wraiths and Ruin from the library. And this one I'm really, really excited to read. I've got to admit, it's part of the Adventures Reading Challenge, and I've heard that the two main characters are trying to kill each other. I think there is a romance in here as well, which I'm not entirely excited about, but the idea of two main characters trying to kill each other is very much up my alley, so I can't wait to read this one. It's also counted for 2 prompts. The first one is Hell, which is 2 perspectives, and then the other one is Main Stage, which is a hyped book. And obviously this one has been doing the rounds for a while on BookTube, and I cannot wait to read it.
Roll number 5 is a 2, so fanfiction. Last roll. Well, that just means another roll because I only count fanfiction once. Is a 3, so, and I'm gonna pick that one, and that is Rhodey, continue a series for 1 point.
My next prompt was Rhodey, and for this I'm going to be reading The Silvered Serpents, which is the second book in the Gilded Wolves series. Now, I read The Gilded Wolves 2 years ago now, and both times I read it in 2019 I was interrupted every 30 seconds, so I am hoping that that doesn't happen this time when I read Silvered Serpents, quite frankly. But this is a France-based historical fantasy revolving around a group of people pulling off a heist, and that's all I really want to know. I can't wait to read this one. I did quite enjoy the characters and stuff like this, so I can't wait to read this one. And it's also counting for the prompt of Tia, which is a disabled main character because one of the main characters is autistic. And obviously that is not the end of my TBR. I have a couple of other things I want to mention, and by a couple I mean several comics and 2 more books because I have no chill. The first one is Just One Damn Thing After Another by Jodie Taylor, and this one is part of the Chronicles of St. Mary's series, and I am starting this series because my mum has been telling me to read this for a good 3-4 years now, quite frankly. It's one of her all-time favourite series. She never rereads books, but she has reread this series like 4 times now and rereads the series every single time a new book comes out, and I've heard nothing but good things from her about this book, quite frankly. And this one is all about time travel and a group of people who end up travelling through time and basically trying to stop disasters, essentially. And the thing that eventually sold me on this, further than her just wearing me down on it, is the fact that apparently the time police in this series are very much like the TVA from Loki, and I am Loki trash, so I'm finally going to be giving it a go while Loki's still airing, and I cannot wait to read this one. It doesn't count for any single prompt as far as I can tell, but I am excited to finally give it a go. I've also got Poison Study on here, which is not a book I thought I'd read, but quite frankly Hannah and Ali, who I'll leave a link to down below, have really sold me on this one, and they are now hosting a read along for it, so I'm going to give it a go. This is a fantasy, and I know there's a villain in it or something, and then the main character is tasked with like tasting all of the royalties' food or something like this. Basically, I know nothing about this, but when we were discussing it a couple of months ago, they completely sold me on it, so I'm going to be giving it a go. And now onto the comics, because of course there is a ton of comics to get through because it is Loki and Black Widow month, and it's obviously the last 2 episodes of Loki, but it is also as well Black Widow month. I've been waiting for this film for 10 years and now I finally get to watch it at last, so I've got a whole ton of comics to celebrate as well. But starting with the Loki stuff, I've got the Loki Agent of Asgard series that is Trust Me, I Cannot Tell a Lie and Last Days. Now, this was on my June TBR and at the moment I am thinking I'm going to read it this month instead because I've quite frankly got a lot of Loki comics to get through anyway, so I'm going to be reading these ones this time instead. And this actually counts for one prompt for the Warped Tour readathon, and that is a book with a cover that matches your hair. You have no idea how much fun I had when I read the words Manic Panic, a book that covers matches your hair, because I had just had this dyed like a couple of hours beforehand and I was like, because it's mainly green, but then there is also orange, red that's gone a bit pinky to be fair, purple and blue throughout this section here. So I was like, what do I do? Do I go for a multicoloured book or do I just go for green or just pick a colour? So I went with green because it's Loki month essentially, and obviously this cover is completely green, so I'm going to count it because my hair is mostly green right now. So yeah, I'm going to be reading this series and I can't wait. I've read the first one before and if I remember rightly it actually has Loki singing The Wizard and I in it, which is very exciting, and I cannot wait to finally read this whole series because I've only read the first one before. Next one is Vote Loki. Now this one comes with the caveat as well that I may have already read this one by the time July rolls around. It depends on when the Vote Loki bit of the Loki TV show happens, quite frankly. I'm currently filming this on Monday the 21st of June, so quite frankly anything could happen in the next 2 episodes, so I am tentatively putting this on the July TBR, but it may end up on the June TBR. It depends on what happens essentially, but this is where Loki runs for President of the United States. I needed to know nothing else. That sounded absolutely brilliant to me, quite frankly. And then onto the Black Widow comics, because I've been collecting Black Widow comics for a good 3 years now and waiting for this month, waiting for this moment, so there's a few, so let's get into it. The first one is Black Widow Widowmaker, and this one involves Natasha teaming up with Bucky and Wolverine. I needed to know nothing about the plot. I just went, those three are some of my 3 favourite characters. This is happening. And this is going to count for 2 prompts. The first one is Freya, which is an animal on the cover, and I'm counting Wolverine as an animal. I know I shouldn't, but he's literally called the Wolverine, and he's got very animalistic traits. They've said you can interpret the prompts any way you wish. I'm going with it. I'm literally going with it. I don't care. I'm just going for it. And then it's also counting for Journeys, which is a shoe on the cover because they're all wearing shoes. I've then got Black Widow Welcome to the Game, and this one is Natasha trying to get out of the assassin game but then getting wrapped up in a assassin plot because someone tries to kill her. I didn't really need to know anything else apart from that, quite frankly. I've then got Black Widow No Restraints Play, and this one is Natasha has come back from the dead and she is angry as hell, and now she's trying to take down criminals in Madripoor. I wanted more Madripoor based stuff. This sounds perfect. Can't wait. I've then got the Winter Soldier Complete Collection, which I probably should have read when Falcon and the Winter Soldier was airing, but I was saving it because Natasha's on the front cover and I'm pretty sure the 2 of them are teaming up to defeat Doom. I need to know nothing else because I love the idea of this. I want more Winter Widow in my life because quite frankly I do ship them and I do not have enough of them, so I cannot wait to read this one and explore that relationship a little bit more. I've then got Kelly Thompson's Black Widow, The Ties That Bind. This is one I bought recently and I know nothing about it further than the fact that it's written by Kelly Thompson, and that's all I really want to know because she is an epic writer and I can't wait to see what she does with Natasha. I've then got the Marvel Knights Black Widow Complete Collection, and all I really know about this one is that it's got Natasha in it and Yelena, and Yelena and Natasha are obviously the main characters of the Black Widow movie, and I know next to nothing about Yelena, so it's about time I read something with her in as well and explored that relationship in comics and film. I've then also got the Finely Woven Thread, and I can't remember for the life of me what this one's about, and I'm sort of going into these ones blind essentially, and I'm quite enjoying that, so yeah, I can't wait to read this one. I just know it's a Black Widow comic, so I'll tell you more about it when I've read it. I've then also got Black Widow, The Shield's Most Wanted and No More Secrets, and I picked these up years ago at Comic Con, my first ever Comic Con back in 2017 actually, and I've read these because I read them ages ago, but I'm going to reread them because it's Black Widow month, so I'm going to give it another go because I did quite enjoy them. And also Shield's Most Wanted, I am counting for Converse black and white cover because it is a mainly black and white cover. There's only a little bit of red, so I'm counting it. And that's absolutely everything I'm going to be reading in July, which counts as about 125 pages a day when you don't count the comics. So that's a lot to be getting on with. And then I've also got a couple of other things I'm also doing this month, like the fact that I'm going to be blogging every single day in July, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, because July is obviously a year of the comic book Sanctum. So what I thought I'd do to celebrate is to blog every single day in July and post something on the Sanctum every single day, whether that be stuff to do with Loki or Black Widow, or just general reading guides, author guides, stuff like this. So if you've got any burning comic book questions or anything like that, please leave a comment down below, because I am all for all suggestions and everything, because obviously the Sanctum is all about helping people get into Marvel comics. So if you have any specific questions, leave those down below. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below again with your questions or anything like that. I'd love to have them so I can answer them. I'll also leave a link down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the comic book Sanctum, like I said, which is updating every single day in July. So please do check that out if you want to have a look and get into Marvel comics. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here. And over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!